Originally released on the Super Famicom in Japan, but not getting a English version until the PS1 port, which was an infamously bad localization. Final Fantasy V came to be what I feel is the constantly most forgotten mainline entry in the Final Fantasy series, especially since people generally will talk about Final Fantasies 4 and 6 and skip 5. Shut up, Final Fantasy 9 fans, at least people talk about your game. The main premise is that the world is powered by crystals, but the crystals are actually shattering, and people try to figure out what exactly is going on and what is causing the crystals to shatter. When the crystals shatter, the elements basically go out of balance and things start going poorly for the world. So it's up to the party to try and investigate what exactly is going on and causing all these issues. So the party in this game generally is just a group of people kind of recently just kind of met each other. I mean, you have Bartz, who's a wandering adventurer. You have Lenna, who's the princess of Tycoon. You have Galuf, as you remember who he is. And you have Faris, a pirate captain. So these are literally just the most freaking random people coming together for this adventure once they see that something major is going on and that probably should be investigated to figure out what exactly is happening in the world. One thing I'll say that I love right now and doesn't really get highlighted much is the improved pixel art in this game, where the characters actually emote, and it feels like it gets overlooked, especially since nowadays games like Final Fantasy 6 exist. But this is the first time characters get to fully emote, have laughing animations, surprise animations, making the cutscenes feel more alive, the characters have more personality. And I feel like it just gets overlooked nowadays because we have later entries, of course, improved pixel art or 3D models. But this is something that Final Fantasy 5 did first back in the day that I just want to highlight because so many things in this game that don't get highlighted by people. The thing I also see people say about this game is that, oh, the game has no story or the characters don't have any personality. That is complete BS. There is character and story to this game. People seem to think the comedy of this game somehow overwrites their story, which is not true at all, and the characters do have their story and arcs. I guess I would say it's less in your face and direct with them, but I wouldn't say they're exactly also really super subtle, because you can figure out how the characters are changing throughout this adventure, especially a character like Bartz or a character like Faris and Galuf. So I don't really get that claim people have with this. The characters are fine. I say good. I like the cast of Final Fantasy V, my favorite cast in the series, but it's not a complaint I see people generally have. I feel like some people either are expecting something more blatantly or repeated constantly over and over, but the characters are good in this game, with Galuf being my favorite character in this franchise, and Faris my second favorite character in the Final Fantasy franchise. Now time for what many people generally cite with this game. Some people think it's the only redeeming quality of this game, and the main redeeming quality is the job system. So the job system was first introduced in Final Fantasy 3, where it was used more as a puzzle-solving mechanic of trying to pretty much figure out how to defeat a certain enemy or boss or dungeon, which was very cool how that game handled the job system, and great. But here, it's more about customization and combination, because when you get a job, you can level up and gain abilities. Then, you can take that ability to another job that you're learning, or take the abilities back to your freelancer. Like, here's the beauty of this. One thing I love doing is having a character, let's say Galuf, be a monk. Then after he learns the ability barehanded, I then have him be a white mage, so he can focus on healing people, but also have the offense of a freaking monk, just punching things with his fist and not needing any weapons, which I love doing that kind of thing. Then the best part of this whole entire system is actually the passive abilities. Whenever you max out a job, you gain the passive abilities back to your freelancer. So stuff that, for example, getting a job you can equip, let's say dual-handed, you generally have to equip as a skill. But the freelancer, when that freaking get that ability for that job perfectly maxed out, can just have it as an innate ability they can do. The freelancers just keep the passive abilities, and this game encourages you to keep getting more abilities to make your characters more and more better and more powerful. And the stuff you can do in this game is nuts, and I love it, which is why I think this is the best handling of the job system. And I think also probably the best mechanic of any RPG that I've ever played, with the way it handles the job system. Many games nowadays keep using the job system in very different variations, also generally having you keep different abilities, but Final Fantasy V does it where it encourages you so hard to get new abilities, combine them, get the passive abilities. The game's credits literally highlight how many jobs each of the characters have actually learned throughout your adventure, so it encourages you to keep experimenting, keep doing stuff, because you will fight enemies that may be tough, may punch out all of your blood in like 2 hits, but you can find the right combination, something crazy, ridiculous, in order to freaking get it done. get a little bit of job mechanic in this game is that not all the jobs are necessarily great for combat. Some just give you abilities that help you in the overworld, such as the older version of Final Fantasy V, you would generally get the ability to run from the thief, which in later versions is kind of a base ability, but hey, now you get the thief's run ability and run even faster. So that's a cool thing, but you can also find hidden passageways with that ability. Granted, you don't need the ability to see hidden passageways, but it allows you to point them out.
Oh!
Are you fucking serious?
It's a secret wall, yes.
You can get an ability that just makes you avoid freaking environmental damage from stuff as a job ability, rather than survival needing to cast like a float spell. There's stuff like that where some of the jobs help you in the overworld on top of combat. Or a thief, hey, it's not all that powerful, but you can make them more powerful. You can give them the ability of a knight as well, or make them more of a mage. Or you get the steal ability just because you can steal the Genji armor from Gilgamesh, who I will get to later, but it's just so many different ways you can do the jobs in this game and use them for your character's builds, which is why I think Final Fantasy V does tremendously well, and that other games keep trying to replicate. Even other Final Fantasy entries. Final Fantasy X-2 has a job system with the dress sphere. 13 series has the freaking job system with the paradigms and the schema system and freaking Lightning Returns. Stranger Paradise has a freaking job system. So many games try to do the job system, even outside this franchise, like Bravely Default, Octopath Traveler, Xenoblade Chronicles X, and 3. So many different games use the job system, but Final Fantasy V does it the best with the fact that you keep passive and literally wants limitless interaction with your abilities. Now, a downside I want to feature about the job system is that it can take a long time to master jobs, especially certain jobs that require you to get like 999 job points for it to get to that final level. So it can take a while to master the jobs, but one beauty is that you get all the jobs relatively early in the game, and I love the fact that you get them in batches at a time, rather than dumping them all at once in you. So I do like how that's also handled, so you get them batches, get some to train, see what you like, get another batch so you can like, see what you combine, and all that. But it does take a while, which later versions of this game, being a Pixel Remaster version, does also allow you to increase the job points that you get to make grinding it faster. I don't blame anyone that uses that ability, because it can take a while to start leveling up jobs to their max potential. But hey, you don't have to level up all jobs to max potential, you just get certain abilities that you want, and then just get that ability and use it with their stuff. You want to be able to freaking double cast magic, including summons? Sure, here's Bahamut raining on down on enemies fucking twice because you can. You want the freaking famous ability to just dual wield weapons and then rapid fire so you do 8 hits in a row?
Yeah, that's not overpowered.
Uh-huh.
X-Fight?
You absolutely murdered that rock.
That was a bear.
Like a fucking rock with a bear head on it.
I mentioned the improved pixel art of this game compared to other entries, but there's many things Final Fantasy V brought to the franchise that I feel people just kind of either unaware about or get overlooked. Like, hey, you know Tonberry is a very popular enemy in the Final Fantasy franchise? Started here. Shinyru, a very powerful freaking boss that's generally used as super boss in many other Final Fantasy games? Started here. Freaking Gilgamesh, the guy who freaking travels through dimensions to do random BS and even other Final Fantasy entries and games, he started here as much as Type 0 from the 15 fans keep trying to steal him with FF5. But that's the beauty of it, FF5 did so much stuff that other fans keep trying to claim it comes from their game first instead somehow. Hell, this is the first entry to have a multi-phase final boss. And yet, that's generally people ignore that and credit it with Final Fantasy 6 or 7 because of their final bosses. But there's so many firsts in Final Fantasy 5 people don't even focus on because Final Fantasy gets overlooked. So many times in conversations where people talk about the SNES era and then go Final Fantasies 4 and 6. What about 5? Why are we skipping 5? 5 did so much. What did 5 ever do to you? I did mention also earlier the game's difficulty. It can be more difficult when compared to other Final Fantasy entries in particular because of the fact that since you have the potential to make your characters way more powerful, the devs felt to give you more powerful enemies as a result.
And skeleton from a distance.
Woohoo!
Rip your reset.
What the fuck was that?
Rip your reset.
What was that?
That was Omaiwa Moshinderu.
Clearly.
Granted, you can also find ways to completely nullify the difficulty of those enemies if you can figure out what you're doing and put things together. So there is that. It's also something that I'm gonna mention because I've seen my sister get upset about, is the fact that you can also just take a character who you don't want to use as a mage, turn them into a white mage, have them heal the party, and then turn them back to their physical jobs because they don't need their MP. And I know people like her find that ridiculous. You can do that from the 5, but hey, it's the boundless freedom of the stuff you can do in this game. So much cool stuff that can be done in this game, which is why I love it so much. A lot of cool side content in this game they can do to get bonus stuff to make a character even better. Like, hey, I want to get the Flare and Holy Spell? Sure, go through a freaking side quest to do it. You want to get the Phoenix Summon? Sure, get the best Phoenix Summon in the entire goddamn franchise. You want to freaking go and get Bahamut? Go ahead and go do that. You can just do stuff like that and like the side content in this game. You want to go get the Summon Eggman? Don't get the Summon Eggman. It's so much work and not worth it. You want to get side jobs? Well, there's only really one in the entire game, but how you get it is cool and such a unique fight. Which another thing, that fight in particular, the character involved is a character that started Final Fantasy V, but generally gets credited because they reappear in another Final Fantasy game, and it's like, so many things from 5 get stolen. They're trying to take Krile from me from Final Fantasy V and make it a Final Fantasy 14 character. They're trying to take everything from me, I swear! Hell, I forgot to mention the boss Omega. We're starting here as a super boss that just wanders around the overworld is also another cool thing in this game. Hell, you forget I mentioned Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, because it reappeared in so many Final Fantasy games, has an entire story character arc here, and he shows up in other Final Fantasy games doing his whole entire thing, and that is cool. That is amazing, and I love that. I also love that some of the times he gets a remix of his battle theme, Battle on the Big Bridge, which is also another cool thing. Gilgamesh's most recent appearance, the point of this video, is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I'm glad that the world of Final Fantasy VII got blessed by Final Fantasy V goodness with Gilgamesh. Despite all some people probably got mad about that, saying he doesn't fit Final Fantasy VII, which I gotta shut the fuck up. For freaking, that is super cool. That is amazing about this game, and this whole entire thing of what it started with the franchise, what it did for the franchise, not just this one entry alone, it's also what it did for this franchise. Much like people talk about how Final Fantasy 1, the start of this franchise, did so much. Final Fantasy 7 also did so much for this franchise, and that's great. But Final Fantasy 5 laid the groundwork for a lot of stuff as well, with every popular enemies, a freaking gameplay mechanic that gets passed on to many other RPGs in their franchise to this day. It is super amazing what Final Fantasy 5 has done. Nowadays, you have many different versions of Final Fantasy 5 to play, with the first I'm using for this video primarily being from the Super Famicom original via fan translation, which is actually how I played the game originally as a kid via fan translation. But there's many different versions. There's a PS1 version. Don't play the PS1 version. Localization's not good. It has long load time somehow, despite being a SNES game, so don't play that one. You have the GBA version, which is a fine choice, although you have some issues with graphical fidelity and music. But hey, you get the most content in all the versions because you get a new super boss. You get extra jobs that are added for this version that comes so late it might not even be worth investing in. But hey, you get more options in that version of the game. You have the D-list and no longer existent iOS and Steam versions, which people hated because it looked ugly. But hey, those versions had the GBA content, so you still had the most content of the game. Nowadays, there's the most recent version, which is a Pixel Remaster, which while it is fantastic, comes with a new remix soundtrack, is amazing, if for some reason lacks the GBA content for whatever reason. That goes for all the games in that collection of Pixel Remaster, which was a baffling choice, but it looks so great. The new remix OST is actually fantastic, except for what they did to Mama to talk about what the hell did you do to that song. But freaking, it is great, fantastic, and so there's no real bad version except for the PS1 version to go with when it comes to Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V is Final Fantasy V, and Final Fantasy V is amazing. I even recommend the freaking Final Fantasy V book by Chris Kohler from Boss Fight Books, which goes over not only behind the scenes more detailed interviews with the dev team, but also talks about the origins and everything of the first ever fan translation for Final Fantasy V as well. You also have the Final Fantasy V retrospective video by Andrew Bluett, which also goes into so much detail on not just Final Fantasy V, but just Final Fantasy franchise as a whole for his whole entire channel. So that's also another one that's also a very good source for more Final Fantasy V information. It sounds like I'm gushing about this game is sucking its dick, it's because I am. But Final Fantasy V is so amazing. It's my favorite entry. It's one of my favorite RPGs, period. The job system is so amazing, so great. I love Galuf, I love Faris, and this is just a freaking fantastic game that I feel that needs more recognition. I was always hoping to get a 3D remake that Final Fantasy IV DS got, but it didn't. Still has it. I still hope for this day. Does it need a remake? Hell no. Like I said, Final Fantasy V is Final Fantasy V, and Final Fantasy V is amazing. So does it even need a remake? That's just me wanting one, purely because I guess I want Final Fantasy V with voice acting, like Final Fantasy IV had. I like that one. But freaking, hey, Final Fantasy included freaking Bartz and Faris and Sildra as part of that game. The city, of course, being a Final Fantasy fighting game, also has freaking Bartz included, and his moveset is taking stuff to the characters of Mimic style, which is also super cool. Like I said, Final Fantasy V, I'm gushing about things unrelated to the game itself at this point, because I just love Final Fantasy V. So, Final Fantasy V, it's Final Fantasy V. It is amazing, super great, did so much for this franchise, so much for RPGs as a whole. I just want more people to experience it. I just want this video off my chest, because I was going to make a video about Final Fantasy. The first video I had to make was about Final Fantasy V. And this game is super amazing. Like I said, you want more info about Final Fantasy V, you can check out the book by Chris Kohler, Final Fantasy V, by Boss 5 Books, and also Final Fantasy V Retrospective by Andrew Bluett as well. Those are also very good information sources. Thank you for listening to my ramble of me just dissecting Final Fantasy V. Oh, this is just me glazing this game. But I don't care. It's Final Fantasy V. Final Fantasy V is amazing.